welcome to the Might Ramble podcast.
Ron, tell us about that.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest.
Hello, everyone. Today I really just might ramble. I was supposed to have a podcast guest today, and plans changed, so it's going to happen Friday. And I haven't done an episode in a while, and there's been, a variety of things going on in my life and things I'm thinking about, so I thought I would do a little monologue. To start with, so I have been playing around a lot with ketosis, so like the keto diet. Kind of the story of this is I think it was October, I'd been recommended to get coffee with a health tech entrepreneur down here in Austin. And so him and I got a coffee meeting set up, and I showed up. I was on time, and he didn't show up. And I was waiting. I was pretty anxious. I was like, man, I'm lucky to have gotten a piece of this guy's time. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't exactly have an elevator pitch here ready to go, but I need a scientific job. But he also just seems like someone that would be cool to just talk about non-professional things, just thinking here in the coffee shop. And he shows up, and I think I was wearing the same shirt as I am right now. I was also clean shaven. And yeah, so we ordered our coffee. I tried to pay. He said no. And I was kind of anxious, so I ended up letting him pay, even though I was lucky to have gotten a piece of his time. Oversight on my part will be better. But anyways, him and I sat down. Essentially, he was like 21 years old in his undergrad, and I think he was looking at pictures. I don't know the whole story. Somehow, pictures of people like in the 1960s on the beach compared to pictures of people on the beach today came into his worldview. And he was like, why is there such a difference? Why do people in the 1960s on the beach look so dramatically more healthy than people on the beach today? And obviously, anecdotal in the sense, there are lots of snapshots that could be captured on modern beaches, and some of them would be more favorable health-wise than others. But I think it's a valid point, and I don't have a bunch of metrics and stuff to list off the top of my head, but to the best of my understanding, we have, say, a wage problem in this country, right? And we've got a lot of other problems in this country. So he became obsessed with this, kind of beach setup of why were people healthier then than they are today, at least in terms of how they looked. And that's kind of what, sparked the foundation of his career. He just went on to build some pretty successful health tech companies. And somewhere along the way in this coffee conversation, my scientific background came up. And so I've done some research kind of at the interface of chemistry and biology, did a fair amount of microbiology. I got a little exposure of neuroscience stuff during my time at Brown University. And so, yeah, we were talking about my professional background. And before I left Brown, let me back up a little bit. So when I arrived at Brown, right, my first semester, the fall of 2023, I had a loved one who was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And not that I didn't care about these things before, but, I can't fix other people, but nonetheless, I am a research scientist. And so I was like, is there some way I can contribute towards finding, better ways to treat, such mental ailments like schizophrenia? I felt kind of powerless, I guess, in the wake of it, of the diagnosis. I was like, I can't fix this, but is there something I can do? And I was like, well, I guess I'm in a position as a as a scientist where, if I decide to care and put some effort into it, maybe I could make a difference as far as laying the groundwork for better treatment. And yeah, so my time at Brown unfolded and ended up getting some neuroscience exposure, particularly in the spring of 2024. And I was in a lab where they were researching many things, but one of the things they were doing was researching Alzheimer's in a dish, so to speak. So essentially what they were doing was taking, and I was a part of this as well, although for not that long. They were taking infant rats, right? Taking the brains out of the infant rats, making kind of like a brain soup of the infant rat cells. And then they would take human stem cells, right, and differentiate them into different types of central nervous system cells. So a lot of people might think that our brain, right, just has neurons or brain cells, right? And while that is true, actually the majority of I think cells up in the head cavity are not neurons, right? There are other types of central nervous system cells that do a lot of very important things, such as microglia or astrocytes or oligodendrocytes, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, so they're taking baby rat brain cells and human stem cells differentiated into these different types of central nervous system cells like neurons, astrocytes, microglia, and kind of mixing them together and then growing that up. So kind of like a brain in a dish. It had kind of a 3D scaffold. And yeah, growing it up, letting it mature, letting neurons form connections with other neurons, otherwise known as synapses, right? And then after, set time periods, you take them out of growing conditions, right? And stain them in a way where under a microscope with special types of lighting, you're actually able to see, these different cells interacting, right, within this kind of 3D matrix or brain in a dish type of thing. And then using that, right, to try and understand what exactly is going on. And all this was done in an Alzheimer's context. So the infant rats had, genetic modifications that resulted in, brain abnormalities that you would typically see within Alzheimer's. And so, okay, very interesting, cool, studying Alzheimer's in a dish. And one might ask, why would we do it this way? Why can't we, just learn from human brains, right? And the hard thing is, or the tricky thing is one, it's not ethical to just go into someone's head and retrieve brain cells, as that would have, dramatic consequences for whoever's brain cells were collected. And two, although you can, work with brain cells from someone who has passed away, the thing about a brain that has passed away, or a dead brain, so to speak, that's going to be very different than, say, like a live living brain. And also the brain changes with age, right? If you capture someone or if you work with brain cells from an 82-year-old who passed away, right, those are going to be very different than, say, what's going on with someone's brain at the age of 16 or something. So so there are boundaries, right, from working with the cells inside people's heads. So given that, right, we try to come up with models, right, that we can work with that don't harm humans. So all of this is great, right? Alzheimer's is, where are we at? It's a nasty, horrible disease, and we're still really without any treatment to, slow it down or reverse the progression or cure it. So definitely a worthwhile research cause. But I got curious in the sense of, okay, Alzheimer's is bad. But for example, for every 5, people that have Alzheimer's in the US, there's probably 4 with bipolar, let's say, right? And although we have treatments for bipolar in a way, and that we don't for Alzheimer's, I guess I would wager just anecdotally here in my life experience that even though we have some treatments for bipolar, most people with bipolar are not exactly cured, right? There's more work to be done there. And so I got curious in the sense of like, we study Alzheimer's in a dish. Why don't we do this for other mental illnesses? And there is, research that goes on as far as studying mental illness in a dish, so to speak. But the prevalence or the amount of research funding that goes towards that is much, much, much less, than a disease like Alzheimer's. And so I asked the question, why is this the case? Why don't we study bipolar in a dish? Why don't we study schizophrenia in a dish? And I talked to a variety of research professors at Brown about this exact question, and I was pretty shocked, to be honest. The response I typically got was, I'll say it in a kind of a condescending manner. It actually was more friendly than this, but it was like, well, Mitchell, you need to understand, if you want to study schizophrenia in a dish, those cells in a dish, they're not going to be hallucinating. And I was like, yeah, that's probably true, right? But we also, there are molecular features that could be modeled in a dish that we understand are different, say, in schizophrenics compared to a normal person, whether it's like dopamine signaling, right? Or I don't know, a bunch of different neurotransmitters or certain types of, genetic upregulations or downregulations. Like these are features that could be modeled in a dish. And although the cells in the dish aren't per se hallucinating to the best of our understanding, there's still, features we can model that we could learn from, right? And start scaffolding towards, better treatments for something like bipolar or something like schizophrenia, right? It's not some mysterious, ununderstandable thing. It just needs more, work put towards it. Where am I going with all this, right? Let's come back to this coffee conversation I was having in October with this health tech, entrepreneur. So, like I said, he told me a bit about his background, and my scientific background, came up, and I kind of gave him this mental health in a dish spiel, like, what are we doing? We can do better. And he kind of stuffed me, and he was like, well, there's a book, there's a book you should read. And I was like, well, okay, what book? And he was like, you should read this book called Brain Energy by, I think the author's name is, could get it wrong. I'll correct it if I do get it wrong and put it in the show notes, but Chris Palmer. And it's essentially a book saying we have all these, mental illnesses and such, and I think they have one root cause. I think it's mitochondrial dysfunction and concurrently, right? Metabolic dysfunction. And so that's the book I'd been reading. And in that book, kind of starts out with the banger. So the author, he, at least the last few years, has been associated with Harvard Medical School, and he's a psychiatrist. And he starts the book with this patient, right? This patient that he's been working with for a long time. This patient comes in. This patient has been struggling with schizoaffective disorder pretty severely. So schizoaffective is kind of a cross between bipolar and schizophrenia. So not good. And this patient's, life is in shambles. He really can't get out of the house because he thinks, the government is listening to his thoughts. He's super paranoid. He's gained a ton of weight because he's been tried on 17 different types of, not types, but 17 different medications over many years to try and treat the schizoaffective disorder, but none of it has worked, and he's just put on a ton of weight, and he's just pretty hopeless and aimless. And the author and this patient, they say, well, things aren't good, but maybe we can start with one thing. Maybe we can tackle the weight loss. And they're like, how could we tackle the weight loss? And they were like, maybe we'll try, a low carb keto diet, right? And see what happens. And so the patient goes on keto. I think he comes back and sees the psychiatrist in a couple weeks, and the psychiatrist notes like, I seem to have more of a spark in him that I haven't seen before, right? At the 8-week mark, the patient sticking with this keto diet. He comes in and he goes, Dr. Palmer, or whoever this author was, you know what I've been telling you, about the government listening to my thoughts and all that. And, the psychiatrist is like, yeah, like, I know all about it. Like, what's going on? And the patient just goes, yeah, I think that was just all in my head, right? I think I was just being crazy, right? And the psychiatrist is just like floored, right? It's been so many years of this guy stuck on this. And the patient's also like, so one of the features of something, say schizophrenia or schizoaffective, is most people with those conditions do not have insight into their illness, right? They're not able to recognize, right, that something is really wrong, in terms of them being able to process the world accurately. And then this patient goes, and all those people that were telling me I have this disorder, I think they were right. So he's coming to an understanding that he's been off course, and the psychiatrist is floored, and decides to start looking into this. Why the hell would a diet change have this dramatic of an effect? And none of the medications could do this either, right? Okay, I had to pause, but I'm back now. We're so back, and so anyways, after this startling change in the schizoaffective patient, right, the psychiatrist gets interested in why would a diet had that big of an effect. And as he starts digging through the literature, what he finds is the keto diet is something that actually could be prescribed, right? If someone has epilepsy, say, they might get it on a keto diet and they might stop having seizures, right? And so there's some type of neurological impact going on between, what I'm eating and carb restriction and then what's going on in my head. But yeah, he got pretty fascinated by it, and he wrote this book called Brain Energy. I think it came out, I want to say in like 2022 or 2023, so pretty recent book. And I've been, reading through that. My interest initially came from, having had a loved one diagnosed with schizophrenia and feeling powerless, but, to really help, but still try my best to see if I can find a path to helping. Yeah, so that's kind of where my interest stemmed from. But per recommendation, I started reading this book, and I have been wanting to get, my loved one on the keto diet to try and see, what impact that might have. But I've thus far been unable to get that done, I think, in the way that I would like to. So anyways, I thought for the time being, considering I don't know a ton about keto, I thought I would make myself a guinea pig and try it out on me and kind of learn the ins and outs of it. And so if there comes a time to, really test it out, for my loved one, that I'll, know what I'm talking about, know how to do it. And so that's what I've been doing this whole month of December. I have been playing around with ketosis, and let me just really drive this point home. I have been shocked, absolutely shocked. I've had my own things that I've struggled with. I am 6 months sober though, so that's great. But yeah, there's been, things I've been working through, and I have just been absolutely shocked. Going on keto, and I've been trying to do it very rigorously. I'm tracking everything. I've been testing my blood in terms of how much glucose is there in comparison to how much ketones is there. Really, it's the concentration of something called beta-hydroxybutyrate. But I've been tracking all this, and when I'm in deeper ketosis, so what do I mean by deeper ketosis? Basically, that ratio of glucose to ketones throughout your body, which I've been measuring in my blood, that ratio, I say there's a range, where you're in ketosis there. And most people, my understanding, or at least based on what I've read, when they do ketosis, they tend to have, about 6 molecules of glucose to maybe 1 molecule of whatever ketone you're testing, or 9 molecules of glucose and 1 molecule of whatever ketone you're testing. And that range is really good, say, for weight loss, right? And then as you start decreasing that ratio, so less glucose and more ketones, right? You start getting into some different ketosis ranges. And so there is a range where it's 3 glucose molecules to 1 ketone, or 6 glucose molecules to 1 ketone. That's really good for certain types of, endocrine disorders, or something like obesity, right? And then there's something called deep therapeutic ketosis, which is a ratio of 1 glucose to 1 ketone, all the way up to 3 glucose to 1 ketone. And so that's what I've been trying to drive myself into, as that would probably be the most effective or cognitively effective form of ketosis, right? If it were to make a drastic impact on someone's mental health. And so, yeah, I've, successfully been able to drive myself into that range. And just absolutely shocking. Just like I wake up, I'm just alert, I'm ready to go. I mean, caffeine still feels good, but I feel plenty with the program even before that. Plenty, just so much energy. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a car that was running on 2 cylinders all of a sudden is running on 6, and you're like, oh yeah, like let's do that and that and that, and it's I'm not having to like force myself to do things that I know deep down I want to do, or the things I have to do just out of discipline. Like I understand you're not always going to feel motivated, but I feel very motivated since I've done this, and everything feels very interesting. Anxiety is way blunted. Rumination, pretty much eradicated. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like more confident and, more like the self that in some ways I've been trying to get back to these last couple of years. So, so I've been shocked, and I'm going to do a more thorough, write up and eventually kind of PSA on this, but that's what I've been playing around with. And I don't know if that sounds interesting to you. Definitely feel free to try it, although I'm not giving medical advice. But yeah, if you have any questions or anything, you just want to get my take on it, definitely feel free to reach out. So that's how I kind of cut down this, keto path, and I'm gonna run it here really strict through the end of December, and then aggregate the data I've collected and make sense of it and try to explain it in a way that others can understand. Yeah, and I think the term to kind of sum all this up would be metabolic psychiatry. It seems like a pretty emerging field of research, is my understanding. So I'm definitely going to pay some more attention there. That's the keto thing. And then what else do I got? So I think it was on maybe like 5 days ago, there was a shooting at Brown University, and I attended Brown in the recent past. Just obtained a master's officially in October. And so, I still have people that I'm familiar with and friends with that are attending Brown. And yeah, it's been very, I don't know, interesting and terrible as well, time as far as like in the wake of the shooting that happened. So just to give a little background, or I guess for those that maybe don't know the details, yeah, I think it was 4 or 5 days ago, a group of undergrads we're attending a finals review session for an economics class at Brown. I think it's one of the largest undergraduate classes they have at Brown. And we were attending it in this building called Bruce in Holly. And someone walked in and started opening fire, both on the instructor and then the students. As of this, speaking, 2 students passed away. I think some others are still in the hospital, and so I don't know all the details as far as, long-term likely outcomes for, those still in the hospital or recovering from having been shot. But yeah, and then the gunman, I don't know how it all came to an end, but it seems like he simply walked away. And as of speaking here, they still haven't figured out who it is. And yeah, I guess I just want to say it's a terrible tragedy. My understanding is it doesn't seem to be targeted at any of the individuals that were actually shot at. But again, we kind of had a lack of information, so don't want to speak too soon on anything. And I think what's been really maybe jarring for me is, we've had a lot of mass shootings to the point where you hear about another one and I say, it's still terrible, but it's happened enough where some of the shock factor has worn off, or in some ways it always kind of seems far away, like, that's terrible, but never would happen to me. And I think for this one, it's been very strange, like knowing, this exact classroom where this happened. 2 years ago, I was in that exact building, proctoring final exams for undergraduates. And I guess just my own personal familiarity with exactly where this happened. There's one building I spent a lot of time in Brown. It would be Bruce and Holly, which is also connected to this like engineering center. And the doorways that he walked in and out of, I walked through there pretty much every day. Once I became familiar with Brown's campus, I particularly in the winter like to kind of cut through this building to get some warmth along the walk. But yeah, it's just been very strange feeling, being able to like imagine or know exactly kind of the details of where that happened. And also the personal impact, like I didn't know any of the people that were shot, but I have a friend that knew both the people that passed away, and knows the TA of the class that was instructing well, witnessed some of it, had to shelter in the library. They were right nearby as shots started firing. And just hearing some of the ways that they've been impacted, and just kind of the mood on campus and grief, collective grief, I guess, is just it's been a lot to think about. So yeah, and aside from that, I don't really want to speculate as to motive or who it was, or I guess we'll just wait till there's more information. But yeah, I did get on a call with the friend I was just talking about. So I'll put that here after this, and you can listen and kind of hear a more, I say, visceral perspective of what that's been like as a student at Brown. And yeah, my condolences to those who lost their lives, and everyone else, and the ways in which they've been impacted there at Brown. So my thoughts are with you. All right, don't mind the fact that I got some keto flush going on, but this next part, I got on a call with my friend, and she is an undergraduate at Brown, and she preferred to stay anonymous, so I'm not going to name her or anything, but we had a bit of a conversation, just catching up about what her weekend was like.
It's going okay. It's been a rough 3 days.
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can.
I gotcha. Yeah, I imagine it's been a, I say, very strange and bad time. So
Yeah, very. Um, it's hard to feel bad for yourself, you just think about like the people who are really affected. So,
yeah, I mean, for sure, it's I don't even know. Like it's obviously it has a impact, I'm sure, on everyone, right? And you would be one that, it would have probably a larger impact than the average student at Brown, just given you had some familiarity with, people directly
yeah.
involved. But yeah, I don't know. It's I've never had obviously anything. One, I wasn't there. I've never
Yeah.
had a direct close call with a shooting of any sort, but I, just like big, horrible life events, they take a while to really sink in and just like fully process too. And so I'm sure it's been very weird, but um,
It's so hard for everyone.
yeah, what's like, are you still on campus?
I am. I'm staying with a lot of my friends who like can't leave, and we just sort of went on the main green and like sat and talked for a while, and like we went to like the gate to drop off flowers, and like there's so many news, you know, people everywhere like trying to interview people while everyone's like crying, and it just feels really insensitive.
Yeah, for sure. It's I mean, obviously, I understand why it's drawn a lot of its attention. Like, one, it's a school shooting. Two, it's a very prestigious, uh, kind of exotic place for it to occur, and also they haven't found the person, right? So it's drawn a ton of attention. And at the same time, though, it's like for the people impacted, it's probably like leave me the fuck alone. Like, just let us be, right? But
Yeah, it's true.
yeah, well, I'm really sorry. Um, that you and everyone else is going through that. It seemed, I'm down in Texas, obviously, so a long ways away, but it's obviously you hear of school shootings. There's been many, 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 um, that have been in the media and stuff, but it feels very different, knowing like would walk through there every day. Like there was one building I spent a lot of time in during my time at Brown. It was that like engineering building in Bruce and Holly. So
Yeah.
it's weird seeing the photos and like, oh yeah, I know exactly where that's at, and like, or just the entire layout. But yeah, very,
Scary.
very strange. I assume everything is like shut down on campus, but
Not really. I mean, everyone who has swipe access can still go places, but if you're not a student, like they kind of kick you off campus.
yeah, I gotcha. And what was I gonna ask you? What was like, if you don't mind me asking, what was like the exact day like for you? Because you were studying and stuff.
Yeah, so I was with my friend Raquel, who is an engineering student, and she was going to head over to Barris and Holly. We were outside, we heard, like popping, and we ran inside the first floor of the skyline, and we saw, like my friend Joseph carried out some people to the street who were injured, and we saw them from the window, and so we thought that the shooter was going to come in and was outside.
For sure.
We didn't know like exactly where people were shot until later, and so we all barricaded ourselves inside, and then
Terrifying.
at a certain point like the police came in with their guns and like evacuated us, and we went to the OMAC, like the athletic center, for a bit, and then they brought us back to the dorms. Yeah.
That's great. So were you outside right when it started?
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. And I imagine the pops were pretty loud. I mean, gunshots have a very distinct sound, that's for sure. But
Just lots of people running, yeah.
Yeah, that's terrifying. It makes my heart like it's so like visceral because I can imagine it because obviously I'm familiar with the exact spot and stuff. I'm like makes my heart race
Mhm.
just like thinking about it. But um,
Yeah.
yeah. And how long were you like just stuck with not knowing what's happening, but you're like scared probably to go outside and all that?
Maybe like 2 hours.
I gotcha. And I'm sure people were just panicked, just trying to figure
Frantic.
out like what's going on. And um,
I mean, I had friends in that room. So I'm like hearing from people like so and so was shot. I think I knew like who was shot in the first hour.
I gotcha. And I don't even know. I'm still shocked they haven't figured out who it was. I feel bad for that guy that got falsely accused and his name got out there. It would really suck. But um, what did the people in the classroom like? What did they say as far as like what happened?
They said they were doing a review session, obviously, principles of econ, and a lot of people showed up to that review session actually.
I mean,
Joseph is a great TA.
yeah, and I was reading that it's the biggest class at Brown for undergrads, like about half of
One of the
undergrads.
biggest. I would say Orgo or like different like chem and like biology classes are like 400 people sometimes.
I gotcha. And
But yeah.
also too, like one thing I've been thinking about is I can't even one like a violent situation, you know, unless you're like in war or something, you would never be prepared for it really. But just going from probably thinking very intellectually, like the last thing on your mind would be violence, right? In that setting, you're like thinking about concepts and I don't know, people are probably stressed. It's finals and you know, like the idea of violence is so far away in that type of setting. And then just all of a sudden, you know, it's like, holy, you know, fight or flight, what is happening? I'm in danger, right? That's just
Mhm.
such a dramatic whiplash.
I mean, I was walking home at 3 a.m. the night before, and I was just thinking, oh my God, thank God I live here. I don't have to feel like nervous
Yeah,
at night.
for sure. I mean, yeah, that whole area, I always felt I had my own stuff, but not like that, right? But I always felt very like safe from a crime perspective as far as like it's like nice homes and it's just students or people affiliated with Brown and there's lots of, you know, like campus security or cops driving by and stuff like that. So,
Mm.
um yeah, but what like for the people that were in the classroom that you've talked to, what did they say as far as like did they hear what the apparently the shooter was yelling or something, but it hasn't come out what he was saying.
They don't know what he said. And so basically, my friend Joseph, who's the TA, he was at the front of the room, and they shot at him first, and everyone basically scrambled to either get to the front of the room or leave. And then basically on the far right of the auditorium was where the people were killed. And
Not the center.
no,
Okay.
the far right.
Yeah.
And that's where he stood, was right above the far right.
Was it in the I'm pretty familiar with Bruce and Holly, so I know it was on the first floor and there's kind of that one big auditorium where
That
you
one
like
was
descend down. It's that one?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what I figured. But yeah, I guess when you enter, if I remember correctly, you're that like top door. Maybe there's two sets of doors, but the one I remember, it's like it is up on the right side, usually where you enter, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, that's exactly. And then he shot some people near the front. But they all survived, which is good.
yeah, that's he missed the TA or missed Joseph, I assume. And
Yeah, he did completely.
yeah, and
But he carried people out.
that's what I heard. And you saw that, right?
Yeah. He's a track athlete, so
Gotcha.
obviously it was easy for him. But
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess how are you holding up? I know you said like it's hard to think much about yourself, and I guess I understand that, but at the same time, I mean that's like, you know, that that will, not only for you, but for other people that weren't even directly involved, but just that, being in that fight or flight, like that is a trauma for sure.
mhm. Um, I think I'm really weird with stuff like this. I almost get numb. So I haven't like processed how I'm feeling yet. Um, I definitely like cried a little like after with my friend Ava. We were in her dorm room.
I'm sure, yeah.
Um, and the girl who, got killed was like I knew her. She was my sorority. You don't judge.
There's
But
no judgment.
yeah, but she was a really great, smart human being. And I hate that people are talking about the fact that she was Republican because I've met so many Republican people here. I've been to a lot of different meetings, in politics here, and some of them are some of the smartest people I've ever talked to. So, like, we have to remember that, like, people were raised in different places
For sure.
and have different religions. And it's like we're in such a liberal bubble that people automatically sort of bully over that fact. And it's just sort of, horrible.
Yeah.
But that's the focus.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we don't know who the shooter was or what the motive was. And I think it's telling, he didn't come in and go right after, that girl. He went after the
It wasn't
TA
targeted.
first, right? Yeah.
It wasn't targeted because that review session was optional, so they didn't know who would show up. Um, unless it was a TA. Um,
That, I guess we'll just have to see it. We just don't know enough. I mean, it definitely seems targeted towards Brown, right? But as far as the people actually, that were shot at, it seemed pretty indiscriminate within Brown.
yeah, it's crazy with Brown. I mean, everything's gonna happen here.
Yeah, and Brown is so small too. Like it's like it's a very intimate community, right? Like people are very, very like you're 1 degree removed from knowing everyone on campus, right? Like someone knows someone else, and it's like it's very everyone knows. Yeah, you're not far away from anyone at Brown,
Yeah,
and
everyone knows someone.
for sure. And what else were we gonna say? Yeah, as far as like that focus on her being a Republican, it sounds like your experience, was very different than mine. Now, I was in a notoriously toxic department, right? And I think I'm a little bit biased just in terms of the bad taste. Not that I'm a Republican, but I didn't just like, directly agree with like very left wing set of ideologies in terms of the people I was around in my department.
Right.
But it sounds like your experience has been different. People much more, I say, not necessarily agreeing, but still like open minded and not shunning people that just weren't left wing.
I mean, actually, that's the opposite. My experience has been if you're liberal on this campus, and you meet someone who is more heavily Republican, you probably won't be friends with them. But I think the fact that everyone knew Ella and knew who she was as a person made people really defend her strongly.
I gotcha. So yeah, we're on the same page as far as like if someone's a Republican, they get shunned. That was,
Yeah.
that was kind of my take on things. But what you're saying is that Ella, when I say, kind of in some ways like rose above that just because people like knew who she was and her character and just that she was from
Yeah.
a different place, and she was kind of immune to it, is what you're saying.
Very soft spoken, respectful, very kind person.
Yeah. It's also just like so crazy to me. It makes me really angry too. Just like people work so hard, right, to be at Brown and in that environment, like all the work that goes into even ending up there, right? And they are still getting their education, right? So they maybe haven't been fully able to capitalize yet on all their hard work, but then it's just, it's snuffed out in an instant, and for what, right?
Mhm.
It's like those people.
I mean, yeah,
I
especially this Ahmed. He's from Uzbekistan, and he comes from a family that was really relying on him to like support them. It's
Yeah,
pretty sad.
and he also I think he had brain surgery as a kid or something. Like he had kind of been through a lot, and kind of overcame it, right? And
Yeah, his
yeah,
first semester.
I just always like, one, violence is never the answer. And if whatever the hell happens, like if someone does end up being violent, why would you kill people that you have no, relation to or anything? They're just entirely innocent. They have nothing to do with whatever the hell's going on with you. And it's just terrible. I don't know what else to say. But
Yeah,
not
it's just pure hate.
not fair, evil.
They're gonna burn in hell for sure.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I I do feel really, like I said, really bad for the guy that people thought it was. Like, imagine looking up your name on the internet and you didn't do it, and it's like all these news articles about you as like a shooter. That would be horrible.
I know people were DMing him too, like rotten hell.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. And what's really scary to me too is those like videos of it looks like a man, but and it probably is a man, just given statistically, almost overwhelmingly likely. But one, he looks super casual, just leaving, right? He looks just pretty. Or maybe those videos are before the shooting. I'm not sure, but anyways, he looks very relaxed. And two, I think what's really scary is usually in those types of like shootings, it's also horrible that it can generalize this type of shooting, right? That says a lot. But if they're killing indiscriminately, right, they usually go down with the ship, so to speak. They just keep going until they're taken out. But this guy just like walked away.
Yeah, it's crazy, and he was so calm. That's the like most killing thing.
I know. I've been thinking. I'm like, I I assume this person has some type of affiliation with Brown. I guess I just don't know for sure. But I'm like, did I cross paths with this person? I don't even know who it is. But it's just like a very weird thought.
I mean, the other guy who was the suspect who was released, my friends had classes with him, which was crazy, and like everyone was saying all this shit, like, oh, he was so weird.
Yeah, I'm sure, going through anything they could remember about him and then trying to paint it in that light, right? And you can always slant things if you get enough eyes on something, right? But yeah, what has the university said in the last, I guess, as far as anything different from what's been reported publicly? Like, I assume there's been a lot of emails sent out to you guys, but
What have they been saying? I mean, it's really hard because CPAX, the head of Brown,
Yeah.
she's not very popular.
I remember that.
And everyone's just hating on her because but I feel bad because she was on a plane to DC, so she wasn't briefed on the information. and people were saying, but I do think she's sort of lying about the access to Barris and Holly and the lack of security to sort of save her, like, her job and her accountability.
What was she? I don't even know what she said.
She just declined to comment if there was like swipe access, which anyone could get in that day.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I think sometimes there was technically swipe access. I mean, I was almost in that building every day, particularly in the spring of 2024, and I didn't have swipe access either. And it was even on the weekends and stuff. Like usually someone would just like prop open that.
Prop a door open. That's what
Right.
was happening.
Yeah.
But what I do find kind of suspicious is the back door in Barris and Holly,
The
like the back door
yeah, which one though? Like heading
on Hope
towards,
Street.
but heading towards like if you were to walk to where I used to live, or the other direction.
Where you used to live.
Okay, yeah.
So he apparently entered and exited through that. So
Oh, that gives me chills. Ugh,
tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you'd know that door is there unless you're familiar with the building.
Yeah, because it's not where you would normally, like, unless you're familiar inside, it's not like how you'd get in and out as far as like if you were just like approaching that building.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, I guess I can't say that for certainty, but it wouldn't be the first door you would go through, right? If you were not familiar.
I mean, like, I used to walk almost every single day on Blackstone Boulevard.
Yep.
And I lived in Littlefield Hall, which is on the main green last year.
I remember.
And always on my way back. Yeah, I know. Always, always on my way back, I would cut through Barris and Holly, and like go to the cafe, or like my friend Raquel is always studying there. But like I didn't know that door was there unless like I really looked. So it's interesting.
Yeah, when I came in the fall of 2023, I mean, I started in the chemistry department building, but then as I went and explored other buildings and such, like, yeah, I would have never thought to go through kind of that back entrance until I was much more familiar with like being in and out of there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That must have been crazy. I don't know exactly. Like, were you reached out to like by anyone? I mean, I know the lab kind of ended sort of hard, but
yeah. No one from Brown, and that's just kind of been a lot of that's on me, just as I've gotten a little bit further away, and I would say like
that's probably good.
Yeah, I very intentionally have, severely constrained the number of individuals affiliated with Brown in my life, just because, like, obviously I have PTSD and stuff, and can be very triggering for me, unfortunately, just interacting with anything Brown related. But I had some other people in my life, obviously, that know that I went to Brown, just reaching out saying like, are you okay? How is this affecting you? Do you know anyone? Right. Blah, blah, blah. But, yeah. So it did trigger like a bit of a PTSD episode for me. Thankfully it didn't go on for very long, but there was like 5 hours where I was like feeling really intense and having all these flashbacks of just like bad stuff again. But
it's so hard.
Yeah, and that, obviously I'm not even there. That's like, I guess, the power of trauma. But
it's okay though. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? And I've made a lot of progress as far as knowing what to do when that happens and dealing with it, and but yeah, I've definitely been thinking a lot about just how it must feel out there. I think just the fact that they haven't found this person is also just terrifying.
It's very terrifying, especially like being here, but like honestly the communities come together. Like I went to like coffee exchange, they gave me free coffee, and like I had all these people come up to talk to me, and like you know, like anywhere you go, like everyone's looking out for you, you know.
Yeah, it's a bit analogous. I imagine there were a lot of strangers that made it off the Titanic that had a lot, to talk about in the wake of having gotten off the Titanic, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's true.
what are you gonna do? I guess like when are you gonna? Everything got canceled, right? Like your semester's done.
Yeah, everything got canceled. I have one more paper left to submit. I feel okay because I have A's and everything, but like people who are like
That's good.
pre-med.
Good job.
Well, I'm also IAPA, like international affairs, so it's easy. But like my friends who are pre-med,
Quote
some of their
unquote
final,
easy. Yeah.
yeah,
I think you just
some
got a high bar over there.
maybe, but some of my friends who are pre-med, they were like relying on their final exams to get an A, so they're kind of fucked. Like